Hey guys, happy Wednesday. This is Lynn Marie, your quitting evangelist, coming to you with this week's Quit of the Week. Now, as you may have seen on social media somewhere, today is World Mental Health Day. And so, in honor, we are going to be talking about quitting the stigma around mental illness. Now, the first thing that comes up for me whenever I think about this is that there's a stigma around so many things that we could easily destigmatize by renaming them. Quitting is the first example. If you have my book, Quitting by Design, or you will have my book, or let me tell you about it. Anyway, the first two chapters talk about destigmatizing quitting, and one entire chapter talks about the semantics. You don't have to call it quitting. If somehow quitting makes you have this kind of like pit feeling in your stomach, oh, I don't want to be a quitter, or quitters never win, then call it transitioning or evolving or pivoting, whatever you'd like. Rename it as what works for you, whatever makes you feel better about your transition or your pivot. We don't have to call it a quit ever. Same thing with mental health challenges. As you see in my, wherever I'm pointing to, wherever this is labeled, I talked about quitting the stigma around mental health challenges because so many people talk about mental illness. And I think that word, the illness portion of things, is the part that gets really stigmatized and hangs a lot of people up. For example, if somebody has a cold, they're ill, two things happen. One, you get kind of like a lot of this sympathy that you may or may not want to have. I mean, when you have a cold, you feel pretty crummy, so maybe you do. But if you have a mental health condition that does not go away as fast as a cold is, go away as fast as a cold does, you probably don't want a lifetime of people just kind of like barraging you with sympathy. And likewise, the second thing that happens is often you don't want to be around that person who has the cold, right? They are contagious, or they might not be that fun to hang out with that minute because you're thinking, oh, this person has an illness. And a lot of people probably don't want to stand up and say, oh, I have a mental illness, for fear that the same thing will happen. And that's where I'd like to say, same thing. If you're having mental health challenges, call them that, because I don't know too many people at all in my life anywhere who have never had a mental health challenge. You may not have something that your doctor or psychiatrist has put on a piece of paper as diagnosis depression, diagnosis bipolar, anxiety disorder, any of those things. But who on earth, or watching this, more specifically, we'll keep it local, who hasn't felt anxious at some point in time? Who hasn't had grief or depression at the loss of somebody in their life? Who hasn't had, periods where they're really excited and then really low and things feel a little bit out of control? I mean, there's a definite diagnostic line where something technically becomes one of these mental illnesses that a doctor would write down, but think of the spectrum. Say generalized anxiety disorder is here. Well, think about how many times you're here, or somewhere on this spectrum, right? And there's no shame in saying, hey, sometimes I feel anxious. People who I know in my life who would never go to a therapist, I don't need a therapist, I don't want to talk to a person, blah, blah, blah. I have heard them say, man, I just feel really anxious when this thing happens. But they wouldn't say, oh, I have anxiety, or they wouldn't want to go to a therapist and have that therapist label them as anxious, right? So try for your own, if you're having these kind of thoughts, like, okay, I'm having mental health challenges, but I'm afraid of being diagnosed with an illness. Just rephrase it as, okay, I have the same mental health challenges, difficulties, ups and downs that everybody does. Maybe I'm having them more right now than some other people. Maybe I've had them less in other points in my life than other people. Things change all the time. And I wanted to bring up something about this stigma. It's that society has not helped us in this. And a little story from residency. In residency, one of my co-residents, she was having a hard time getting her Arizona license to practice in the state. She had trained somewhere else because at some point in her past, she had been treated for depression. Now, that was 10 years ago at this point, 10 to 13, I think 13 years ago at this point. But imagine at this point, with luckily therapy becoming more common and people being more open to going and getting treatment for those kinds of issues, imagine, and I actually don't know that the Arizona Medical Board does or does not still do this, but she had to jump through so many more hoops to prove that she was mentally fit to practice, as if somehow most doctors don't have depression. Newsflash, many, many, many do. and they may not have it all the time, but if you don't have depression at some point in residency, you are resilient beyond belief, and we should chat, because residency is a very, very difficult time. So is medical school. So having depression, or at least, some kind of temporary depressed mood period of your life, is very common. And with the fact that the medical board was doing that, and I heard that, I literally thought to myself, okay, never go to a psychiatrist. You cannot go to a psychiatrist ever. Never tell your family doctor you're feeling anxious or depressed or anything, because it will jeopardize your medical career. And that kind of thing is dangerous. That sets up a really bad precedent so that people like myself, who are supposed to be helping other people get to their mental health best, can't get to our mental health best. And it brings up something else. If you are one of those people I mentioned a few minutes ago who is like, I am never going to a therapist, I never want to be called mentally ill, whatever may be stopping you from getting any kind of assistance with whatever challenges you may be experiencing, I would advise, and by the way, this is not medical advice. I am not Dr. Morski coming to you right now. I'm just Lynn Marie, quitting enthusiast, coming to you as a person who has, like everybody else, had ups and downs in life. And I have gone to a therapist. Nobody's ever sat down that I know of and written a diagnosis on anything, but it doesn't change the fact that I know what I feel at certain times more than others. And I'm glad I was able to reach out to therapists, etc., whomever was there to help. If you don't want ever to go to a therapist and you don't want somebody to write down a diagnosis, here's my tip of the day: find a coach. Now, if you have some serious mental problems and you are thinking about suicide, those kinds of things, do not just go for a coach. Please do get medical help. But if you're at the place where you just have an occasional anxious feeling, and you are so anti anybody else, you just will not see a mental health professional about it, then please at least see a coach or see your friend or see somebody else. Destigmatize the whole thing. Destigmatize the thought that you are somehow damaged if you tell people that you have less than perfect minutes in your head. We all have them. So again, none of this is medical advice. What I'm saying is that as a person who knows other people who may or may not want to seek medical advice, if you're suicidal, please seek it anyway. Call whomever, get medical help. But for those of us who just have your regular old mental health struggles, one, realize that they are regular old mental health struggles. You're not the only one who has them, and therefore nobody is going to judge you if you talk about them. So please, talk about them. Go see somebody that can help you, be it a coach, be it a therapist, your family doctor, whomever. Just help me quit this stigma around mental health issues. Call them what you will. Anyway, thank you to everybody. This is a total 180, but I wanted to send out some gratitude before I forget to everybody who has helped with the book launch. It's been out about a week and a half. If you have picked up the book, I love you very much. If you would go and leave a review on Amazon for the book, I would love you. Like, if this heart could get bigger. It really helps to let other people know what they can expect from the book. It's, one thing for what I put on Amazon, and it's much more helpful for them to see what other people who aren't me thought of the book. Anyway, if you would like to join Quitopia and hear more this week, there's at least one more quit of the week that's going to go on over there. Find me at Quitopia, your humble home for all things strategic quitting. It's a Facebook group. Join it. It's very easy and fun. And if you want to check out Quit Happens, we've got Kirsten Asher on this week. You might have seen her on the Quit of the Week a few weeks ago, but check out her episode. Check me out on Instagram, YouTube, all the above. But I just wanted to send a big thanks out to everybody who's helping with my book release party, October 26th, and everybody who's picked up the book, and everybody who's tuning in. I love you all. Thank you very much. And until next week, happy quitting and happy mental health. Bye, guys.